Welcome to Salt Lake City, Utah for live coverage of the 2011 Bird of Sport USA Team Handball Club National Championships. We're at the Salt Palace Convention Center in downtown Salt Lake City, and the first of two matches we're going to bring you today is an exciting women's final between Chicago Inter and the New York City Team Handball Club. We welcome all of you watching from wherever you are all around the world. I'm Ken Tomash, and I'll be joined by U.S. National Team Captain Tia Buai today. Tia, this is going to be a terrific matchup. We're really looking forward to seeing Chicago Inter against New York City Team Handball. You obviously know these teams. You've seen them up close. What kind of matchup are you expecting out of this championship game?
Well, first of all, I think it's going to be really physical. Both teams have big shooters. They have circles, which we'll explain as the game goes, so it's going to be really physical. There's going to be a lot of shooting. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. It should be really good.
If you haven't seen Team Handball before, you are in for a treat. But for those of you that aren't quite familiar with it, let's take a look at some of the rules of this exciting game that is played all over the world. Each team gets one timeout per half. We'll see about 40 goals in a standard game. The ball is a little smaller than a volleyball, and it stings, and players will get hit by it. It's on a court that's 40 meters long by 20 meters wide. Here's the competition format today. We're going to see two 30-minute halves in this championship game. Each team will have 6 out-court players plus a goalkeeper. We'll have a 10-minute halftime, and substitution is kind of on the fly. It doesn't have to be in a dead ball situation, but there are some rules on that we'll let you pick up on as we go along. All right, so Chicago is here. They were the national champions in 2008 and 2009 before falling in the final to Houston a year ago. Houston is not back this year. And New York, meanwhile, has really been making noise all this spring. A relative newcomer here, but they were terrific. They won the Laura Walker Invitational at Army in March, going 5-0. They are 5-0 here in this tournament and have outscored their opponents 130 to 51. And T, I know you know them well. Obviously, you've seen them in this tournament. They've got a lot of weapons.
They have a lot of weapons. They can score from multiple positions, which makes them very difficult to play defensively. And they run a very efficient fast break, which you'll see a lot here. And it's one of the reasons why they're scoring so many goals.
This is New York here in red. You saw Chicago Inter in black. Inter is a very veteran team. They have been through the wars before. They've got very veteran, experienced players, but they've added some new faces this year. You saw them up close. Obviously, they knocked out your team in the semifinals last night. So that combination of experience and exuberance makes them really tough to play.
Yes, the youth actually helped Chicago this year in the fact that they're able to fast break and get out and run, whereas before they were very much a half-court offense team, and now they're able to run, and the youth has really helped infuse that group.
Here you see New York. New York is a very European-dominated team. 8 countries are represented. There you see Nicoletta Macara. There you see Marlene Sturck, one of their leading scorers, number 17. She's Dutch. There's a German influence. They've got players from Poland, Italy, Japan, and Serbia, and they play very powerfully. We will especially see Annika Schmidt, number 15, who's the leading scorer in the entire tournament for the women. She's going to be very tough to stop.
Well, she's going to be tough to stop because she's physical and she has lots of different ways to score, and I think that Chicago's going to have a tough time defensively with her.
Now, we've talked about, again, for those of you who may be watching Team Handball for the first time, it's played all over the world, but here in America, still an emerging sport. You'll see a goalkeeper and then 6 players in the court. You see this court here. There's kind of it's not really hard like wood, but you've played on it. How would you describe this floor, T?
It's very similar to what the volleyball players play on, the sport court. It's got enough bounce so that you can dribble, but it's not so hard that, it's difficult for the players to go up and down. So it's very unique.
All right, we're going to have our national anthem here, and the women's final will get going right after that. The players are going to go out to the center of the court. Again, that is Chicago Inter, and they are very international. The players representing Poland, Lithuania, Germany, Romania, Bosnia, and the USA. They're in black there at the bottom of your screen. And the New York City Team Handball Club in red. So very international flair, and you will see players who bring that international experience here, and you'll see the handball as it is played in much of the rest of the world, which is at a very high level, very strong, very fast.
This is a great championship for people to watch because a lot of these players have done it since they were younger, so they are very experienced and they move very fluidly, whereas some of the American players are a little bit new and a little bit choppy, so this should be a great fluid game.
Here's our national anthem. national anthem. And of course, if we played all the anthems from all the countries that are represented here, we would be here all day. But it is good, I think, for young American players to learn from these players who grew up playing handball, which not a lot of Americans do.
No, and I think if there's Americans out watching, you're going to see a lot of elements from multiple sports being displayed here, and I think that's the easiest way to explain it. But it's very good to see a group that's done it from youth to play because it looks so much more fluid.
Transferable skills, including you see a lot of people who played basketball. There are some of those skills, some soccer-type skills, especially in goal. You can get athletes from all sorts of places, but you'll notice just the body types. Height helps, long reach.
Yes,
those types of players seem to do well in this sport.
Volleyball players also transition here. There's a position for everybody, I always say, in this game.
All right, our starting lineup for Chicago, and you'll recognize some of these names if you've been following the sport for any number of years. It is a highly veteran team. Yolanta Kunakite, Gabrielle Stillwell, Kathy Darling will be in the pivot, Malin Jeanson, who's a new player, Gita Stankovic-Ute, who the ageless one, Jackie Messel from the United States, and Francie Mooring. It'll be Jackie Messel in goal for Chicago. New York, meanwhile, will have Ivana Milokovic in goal. They're in red. Their backs will be Monika Zielinska, Alexandra Miknevitz, and Annika Schmid, number 15, who is their leading scorer in the entire tournament, Oana Hodos and Aylin Todo. And just to give you an idea, there are three backcourt players, a center back, a left back, a right back, a pivot or center, who's kind of like a center in basketball. They will distribute, run some things there. And the object is to get the ball to the wings, a left wing or right wing, for an effective angle shot at the keeper.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that people will notice is that you want to try to overload a particular area so that another player can have an open shot. You want to try to get the best angle in handball for a good shot.
It's quick ball movement. The ball will move side to side a lot. We will see fast breaks as you see in basketball. And maybe one thing, as you see our officials here, Lars Jorgensen from Texas and Ben Abderpaknani from Colorado, as they're getting ready, checking out that ball. One thing I learned early on, T, is that don't shake hands with a handballer because you won't be able to let go. The ball gets really sticky from the stuff that they put on it, so you can get a good grip. So that's what they're doing right now, is just getting used to the feel of that ball.
Yes, because there are some people, which is extremely European, they put a lot of it on it, and then you end up having a longer handshake than you need.
There is Chicago Inter in black, and number 5 is Yolanta Kunakite. She was the MVP of the National Championship Tournament 2 years ago in Elgin, and they're the New York City Team Handball Club. Just their second year in the scene, really, but we told you they had a great tournament at Army in March, went 5-0 and won that tournament, but then finished 4th at the Blue Cup in Carolina, so it's a little up in the air as to which team is going to show up for them today. But based on their play in the tournament thus far, T, it looks like they've got their A game.
Oh, they have their A game, and I think the Blue Cup is kind of an anomaly because they were missing a few players that weekend, and they sent more of their B group down.
New York beat Carolina 23-19 in the semifinals last night. They are 5-0 here in this tournament, and Inter, you see there warming up in black, who will take the opening throw. They are 4-0. They won Group B and defeated New York Athletic Club Dynamo 24-18 in the semifinals last night. And we are underway. Chicago Inter in black, and they'll be attacking left to right here across your screen in the first of two 30-minute halves. Ken Tomash and Tia Bowie with you from Salt Lake City, Utah. And the first thing you'll notice right away is that defense very physical in this game.
Yes, and what you'll notice is that when they stop momentum of the offensive player, the referee will signal a restart, and then they just start from the 9-meter line, the dotted line.
That dotted line is where all free throws come. There's a big shot in the first goal of the game by Kathy Darling. Not a surprise. She's their leading scorer with 31 goals in the tournament, now make it 32. Back comes New York the other way. Their big gun. Annika Schmid dishes it off. You see them trying to get onto the right wing. Monika Zielinska will be kind of the point guard. Number 8, she has the ball now. She's the center back. They will look for a good shot from those wings. And you'll notice the players back up into that semicircle in front of the goal. No player can go into that section of the court. That is the goalkeeper's area. Schmid looking for an opening, and she is tied up there. And she'll give a smack to the jaw of Gabrielle Stillwell.
There's going to be a lot of extracurriculars after the whistle and during play today because these teams aren't particularly fond of each other.
But if you've played this game long enough, you expect that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
It's New York on the attack in red. They'll get that into the pivot. We've got a foul and another free throw there. It's tough work in the pivot.
There's a lot of pinching and grabbing and pushing going on that a lot of people don't see.
There's Nicoletta Makara in the pivot. This one off to Zielinska. Monica Schmid with a shot. She adds to her tournament leading total now with 34 goals, and it's 1-1. Less than 2 minutes in here to the first half from Salt Palace Convention Center in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's the Women's Championship Final, the 2011 Berta Sport USA Team Handball National Club Championships. We tried to get that one inside to Yolanta Kunakite, and she was fouled by Nicoletta Makara. Free throw coming. Stankovic hits the deck.
Chicago's a very patient team, so they'll take a lot of restarts just to get what they want.
Onto the wing too. Malin Jeanson, shot off the mark, and here comes New York on the break. It's Annika Schmid. Schmid bounces it on the left wing. Shot by Anna Hodos, and a nice save there by Jackie Messel.
The goalies are going to play a huge role in today's game because they're going to have to come up with one or two big stops for one team to gain a little bit of momentum.
There was a big one there by Jackie Messel, Team USA keeper from Mount Pleasant, Iowa. She's in the midst of a whole bunch of European teammates and opponents today. Kid from Iowa, what's she doing here? Here's Darling in the post. Off on the wing to Jeanson. And we're going to have a yellow card. That's another thing we need to touch on is yellow cards for infractions, kind of like in soccer.
Yeah, and the difference is if you're a little bit too rough, they'll give you a yellow card as your warning, and after that you'll be penalized 2 minutes.
We will see power plays. We will see players sent off for 2 minutes. Darling with a shot and a big save by Milokovic. Now the keepers are being tested early and equal to the task. Zielinska got that one into the post to Nicoletta Makara, and Makara was fouled. Boy, we talked about that ball is about a pound, but when it's coming at you with that kind of speed and power.
Absolutely, it's about the size of a cantaloupe. That's right, a women's ball is about the size of a cantaloupe, but it hurts a lot more than that.
It's out of top to Zielinska, now on right wing to Alexandra Miknevitz. Here's Schmid, and Schmid is tied up by Gabriella Stillwell. What kind of strategy will we see used on Schmid defensively, given that she is so powerful and the leading scorer?
Well, I'm actually surprised that they're giving her that much space to run. What a lot of teams have been doing over the weekend is bringing somebody a little bit closer and almost playing a man-to-man with her, and everybody else play a zone. But I think Chicago's feeling comfortable with what they're doing in their zone.
Miknevitz now lines up for a shot, and Messel comes through with another big save. Still 1-1. Less than 5 minutes into the first half. Messel sticks out the right arm, makes the stop. Chicago Inter in black, and New York City in red. Inter, we told you, won this tournament in 2008 and 2009, and were runner-ups last year to the Houston Firehawks. Shot and another save. Malin Jeanson with the shot. Now here comes New York. Schmid looking for an opening, dishes it off on right wing, and it's buried by Miknevitz.
And it's really important to see that she came across the middle and drew a lot of the defense towards her, so she opened up a lane for the right back.
Alexandra Miknevitz from Poland. That's her 21st goal of the tournament. First today. And New York leads it 2-1. Darling now, who's kind of playing out wide, which is a little different look for them. Now Darling will get up high and put that one over the bar.
They're giving Kathy Darling a little bit more space because when she gets it with that much momentum, she's probably got one of the stronger shots on the court here.
Now it's Schmid. And Miknevitz will hit the deck. Talked about this court tee, and if you're a player, you get pretty intimately involved with this court. You spend a lot of time on it.
It feels great to run on, not so great when you hit it at that kind of speed.
24 minutes to go, first half. Playing 2 30-minute halves today. The clock runs almost continuously. Here's Schmid now. As you see, decent ball movement there, but it goes off the foot of Alexander Miknevitz. And quick breaking the other end is Inter to tie the score. Malin Jeanson with her first of the day, 18th of the tournament.
It's really important to notice that turnovers are going to be key. If it hits your leg below your knee, it's an automatic turnover, and the other team can pick it up from the spot and go. They don't need to wait for the ref.
Tied at 2, 23 and a half minutes to go, first half. New York City in red. And we'll wrap up Monika Zielinska. Break up that attack. Zielinska, one of several Polish players on the team and in this tournament. Team handball very big all over Europe, but Poland and Germany are some of the big powerhouses.
Absolutely.
Here's Schmid, German star of the Bundesliga. That one's just off the mark.
She's very physical, and I think that the more comfortable she gets with who's playing in front of her, the more you'll see her attack hard like that.
Tell you what, you don't want to be in front of that ball.
No. I think goalies have a different kind of mentality in handball.
Don't even wear gloves either, not even like an indoor soccer goalie. That one's whipped, and again, look at Messel stopping that one with the shin off the shot by Monika Zielinska. Tied at 2, 22 and a half minutes to go, first half. Inter moving the ball quickly, Kunikita with a shot and a save by Milokovic. And a yellow card comes out.
It's really important to remember that when you're in the act of shooting and you're jumping in the air, it's illegal to hit the person's arm coming through, so that was the call there. And when they block their path to the goal, what happens is it becomes a 7-meter penalty, which is like a penalty shot in soccer, and it's a free shot for Chicago.
And when Kathy Darling is 7 meters away from the goal, she's got to keep 1 foot on that line, and the goalkeeper is restrained by the 4-meter line, and Darling scores her second. And puts her team up 3-1 with 22:14 to go in the first half. Now New York looks to answer. Schmid draws triple coverage. Got it off to Miknevitz. Her shot was stopped by Jackie Messel.
Chicago's doing a very nice job on New York's leading scorer, making her pass off and make somebody else hurt them.
New York has it back. Miknevitz, Schmid, she draws company. That was put in the back of the net by Miknevitz. Her second of the day. It's 3-3 with 21:42 to go first half. We'll start to see some substitutions. Stanko Vashute returns to the lineup. Players have to go in and out of this little substitution channel just to the side of their bench, but they don't have to stand on ceremony. They just go in and out. It's 3-3 first half, women's championship fun. Darling loses the handle on that one. And now New York will build out of the back. Zielinska to Schmid. Bounces it on left wing to Hodos. Now Schmid. She's just sizing things up. Deliberate ball movement. Schmid's going to be fouled. And they'll take it quickly. She's going to get whacked again on the edge of the 6-meter line. Cards are flying here early.
Yeah, they're trying to keep a lot of the pushing and extracurriculars to a minimum so the game doesn't get too out of hand.
Julia Ullman, who's checked in, took that free throw. Forcing her way in and scoring is Monika Zielinska. That's her first. It's 4-3 New York.
She did a great job weaving through while the defense was concerned with somebody else.
20:25 to go, first half. Inter now looking to tie this game up again in black. Gita Stankovic-Ute. Up top to Malin Jeanson. Lost in the corner and corralled there by Aylin Toto.
It's important to notice they tie up somebody in the backcourt so it allows the defense to get set. That way they can't run a fast break on them.
And if you're a team like Chicago that we talked about, even though they are better at fast breaking than they were a year ago, you'd still like to be able to slow the game down, at least at first.
Absolutely. This is definitely a half-court team, so they're going to try to slow New York down and make them beat them in a half-court.
Marlene Sturck is checked in. She's on right wing. Dutch player, their third leading scorer. Ullman takes the free throw. Monica Zielinska tries to get it onto left wing to Oana Hodos. And you see Hodos hitting the deck there as you get a good look at the sport court floor here. Schmidt now has to dump that one off. Loose ball collected by Hodos.
Now what you see, the ref has his arm up. It means passive. It means they were stalling, so they had to shoot, but they just turned it over. So
must make a legitimate attempt to score. Here's one at the other end. It's off the post. Inter has it back though, and Jeanson gets spun to the ground. Yes, we'll get into this more as it goes along. Here you see the shot that goes just off the mark, and Kunikite hits the deck. There's no stalling, there's no four corners like you used to be able to do in basketball without a shot clock, but it's up to the referee to make the determination as to whether or not you are taking what they call passive play. And if you take too long, he'll just turn the ball over and we'll go the other way.
Absolutely, and what they're trying to do is keep either team from using the clock as an advantage.
Because the clock almost never stops. It's running now with 18 minutes and 22 seconds to go in the first half. Darling, Stankovic-Ute. Back to Darling. Looking for an opening. Puts it in the corner. Third of the day. We're tied at 4.
Once again, I think both teams are relying on their defense. They're letting the other team's leading scorer do whatever they want and hope that the defense holds.
Darling had about a third of Chicago's goals coming in, 31 of their 94. She's got 3 out of their 4 here in the first half. And we've got 17 minutes and 48 seconds to go in the first half. And Schmidt looks to muscle her way into the pivot, gets fouled.
Yeah, Chicago's starting to come up and play Schmidt a little bit harder because they're not trying to give up any more easy goals.
Neither team's had a man advantage situation yet. We may see that if the physical play continues and anybody gets sent off for 2 minutes as Julia Ullmann gets fouled in the post. There's Ullmann, 23, the German player.
It's not handball without somebody having a 2-minute.
Now on right wing to Marlene Sturck. Sturck pulls right into a defender. They both hit the deck. It's Francie Mooring getting the worst of that exchange. Mooring definitely outsized in that little set 2 there.
I think they're trying to use size advantage on certain areas here.
And Zielinska puts on her second of the match. It's 5-4 New York. And after every goal, you'll notice, they'll go back to the center of the court for a quick throw-off, the restart. It's not like in basketball where you just go up and back. You do have to have the restart. Stankovic-Ute to Darling, thought better of the shot. Jeanson. Inside and scoring is Jolanta Kunikite, her first of the match. The 37-year-old Lithuanian makes it 5-5.
If you notice, New York is using the restart to their advantage. They're going to try to run back while Chicago is celebrating a goal.
Schmidt ducks inside, dishes it off the post though. No, she may have been in the area.
Yeah.
And you can't go into that goalkeeper area. You can't step on it, and that was the call.
Foot on the line or anything near it, then, oh yeah.
Right there.
Goes automatically to the goalie.
That's why you'll see defenders with their heels up against that line. They can't go in there either. You can land there after you release the shot. Batted away. Miknevitz can't find it on the fast break, and now she is a bear hug by Gabriella Stillwell. And that allowed her teammates to get back defensively. See Alexandra Miknevitz with 2 goals already this afternoon.
Yeah, they're going to play, Chicago's playing man on Schmidt to see if the other 5 can play without her.
Foul there as Darling takes one around the neck and back comes Inter the other way. We are tied at 5 with exactly 15 minutes to play in the first half. Salt Palace Convention Center in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. Ken Tomash and Tia Bue with you. And the final, the women's final of the 2011 Berta Sport USA Team Handball National Championships. So now in Jeanson. Stankovic-Ute. Jeanson drops it off deftly. Lena Peterson has checked in, number 2 for Inter. And a collision near midcourt. And a yellow card again.
You hear the crowd going crazy because it impeded a fast break, so usually they give a little more than a warning on that particular play, so the rest went a little light on Chicago.
See the players from New York's men's team who will play Chicago Inter in the men's final after this game, so they have come out early to support their sister team. We'll also see other players from other teams as the other placement matches finish up and everybody fills in this court 2 here at the Convention Center. And by the time we get late in this game and early in the next game, this place should be really rocking.
I think so.
We're tied at 5 with 13 minutes and 48 seconds to go in the first half of play. And Marlene Sturck was looking for an opening. She got fouled instead. There's Sturck, Dutch player. That one's bounced home by Aylin Toto, Japanese player from right wing.
Yeah, if you noticed on the restart, you have to be 3 meters away from the ball. And what they're going to try to do is get some openings by the restarts.
Jensen. Chute. Play catch on the left side. Francie Mooring there as well. New York leads at 6-5, 13:08 to play first half. And Lena Peterson tried to force her way in there. Drew the foul. There you see the free throw line right there. Got to have 1 foot on there when you take a free throw. Jensen now whips it to the side, and unfortunately a little too far. Gabriella Stillwell stepped in the area. I think she was fouled first.
They're giving their foul in the continuation.
Stankovic drops it inside to Kunakite. Foul called there. Down right wing, back out. Nice defensive work there by Annika Schmidt. Here's Marlene Sturck on the break. Sturck sheds at the corner and scores. She would not be denied.
No, I think she was going full head of steam, and it's very difficult in handball because you can't turn your hand over the ball. She did a great job using the full 3 steps.
Just get out of my way, Malin. New York now 7-5 with 11:52 to play in the first half. Inter in black, trailing, but with the ball, big save by Ivana Milokovic. Just as quickly, a steal by Kunakite, and she scores. 5 saves already by Ivana Milokovic.
And that's very demoralizing for a goalie to make a big stop and then have a turnover open court like that. So that's a good momentum builder for Chicago.
And when your teammates have already taken off at the end of the floor, it's you against the offensive player.
And you never want that.
That rarely ends well. 7-6 here, but New York with the lead and the ball. And Alexandra Miknovitz definitely gets the worst of that exchange.
Well, that's a tough side of defense for Chicago to try to go through.
Miknovitz again. Zelinska.
Now that was a charge. What it is if the defensive player has their step and they're in their spot, it's similar to basketball. You can't run them over. It's an instant turnover.
Darling. Zelinska gets up and gets back in defensively. Foul called there. 10.5 minutes to play first half. New York leads Chicago 7-6. Darling passes up the shot. Get it onto right wing though. They're trying to set up Darling for a shot just like that. Her 4th goal of the first half and 35th of the tournament. She takes over the tournament lead. As Schmidt has been held to just 1 goal here in the opening half. That one got tipped, but it travels so fast it doesn't matter.
Absolutely. Oh, there's a bad collision over there. So what happens is when you have players on the floor, the ref is allowed to stop the clock to make sure everybody's okay. And unlike soccer, there's no injury time.
And you get 1 timeout per half, and Chicago is going to take advantage of that and call that timeout. They trail it. Oh, no, we're tied actually. It's a 7-7 game with 10 minutes and 5 seconds to play here in the first half. Hope you're enjoying it. We're at the Salt Palace Convention Center in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm Ken Tomash, along with U.S. National Team Captain T. Abuai. And T, now we'll turn our attention to the national team. You guys are getting ready. You qualified for the Pan Am Games. I see the big smile on your face. This is a big moment for American team handball to make progress and to qualify for tournaments like that in our region.
Yes, it's been a long time since either national team has been able to go to the Pan Am Games, and that's this this hemisphere's Olympic qualifier. So we're really excited that we were able to win the North America part of it, and that we'll be going to Guadalajara in October. So it's very exciting for us.
And the guys are going to get one more chance. They're going to go down to a 3-team tournament with Uruguay and
Guatemala.
And a chance in Guatemala. So it's not going to be easy, but it would be great to have both of our teams in the Pan Am Games, something that hasn't happened since 2003. You guys got it out a great series against Canada to get there. How do you feel about how your team is playing, looking for the Pan Ams?
I think we're going to do well. We bring a different style to this hemisphere. A lot of people are faster. We're very defensive. We hit hard. So I think we have a very good chance to go down there and get a medal.
So out of the timeout, as you take a good look from high in the rafters as the Salt Palace Convention Center Court 2 is beginning to fill in here. Those are the New York City's men's team. We'll also see, if we haven't already, Chicago's men's team. They've got to be around here somewhere. They're going to be playing. In the second matchup here, it's New York 7, Chicago 7. We've got 9 minutes and 49 seconds to play in the first half. Chicago with the ball. And before Gabrielle Stillwell could get that shot off, she was fouled. There's Stillwell, one of the new faces on this team in Chicago. A year ago, they were run out of the gym by a very young and fast Houston Firehawks squad that they retooled, and they're back here in the final and looking good. It's 7-all, under 10 minutes to play in the half. And that foul there called on Chicago.
And again, Chicago's going to try to take New York's leading scorer out to try to see who else can put the ball in the goal.
And Marlene Sturck was fouled there at the edge of the 6-meter line. Schmidt, there's some of that power that we talked about earlier, that she is tough to stop, but only her second goal. It does give her team the lead now at 8-7. Take a look.
So what happens is on a restart, you have to give 3 meters, and that's just enough space for her to be able to score and shoot.
Doesn't need much more than that. It's 8-7 New York. 8:40 to play in the first half. Francie Mooring try to hit that one from left wing, nothing doing. Schmidt back the other way. Is this where point of the game where she's just going to take over here?
I was actually going to say I'm waiting for her to decide when she wants to start scoring, because she's that type of a player that she could take over whenever she wants to.
Veteran of the Bundesliga in Germany, her native land. She's playing way out up high now. And Monica Zelinska is tied up. A quick restart. Get it on the right wing to Toto. Now Schmidt works around a pick. They get it on to the left wing, and a kick save by Jackie Messer. Ball still alive, though. Toto bounces it in from right wing, her second of the match.
And as we said earlier, you don't need the ref to restart. So if it goes out of bounds, as quick as you could get it and throw it in, it's legal. And I think New York's really going to try to use speed to their advantage today.
Carolina Morganari checks out as Gabriella Stillwell returns for Chicago. Tabby Hardison is in as well at right wing. There's Hardison, number 17, a former soccer player at Northwestern University. So we get handball players from all sorts of sports as Darling forces her way in. A foul called before that one went in the net.
Kathy's also a member of the national team, as you can see, one of the big guns from the national team there.
And that could have been a fast break, but it missed connections and goes into New York's bench. It'll give New York a chance to set back up defensively, but it gives the ball back to Chicago. They trail it 9-7, 6:50 to play here in the first half. Again, 2 30-minute halves that almost continuously run clocked. Tabby Hardison puts home her first of the match to get within one at 9-8.
She picked up a nice rebound. That's one of the difficult things in handball. You never know where the ball's coming off.
6.5 minutes to play in the first half. Again, they'll work it to right wing. Back towards the center. It goes off the hands of Marlene Sturck, and here comes the break. Tabby Hardison stayed with it, and she was just shoved off the ball enough by Annika Schmidt to make her shot go wide of the post.
And that was a great defensive play to push it to the outside, give her a bad angle, and give New York an opportunity to set up their defense.
Exactly 6 minutes to play in the first half. New York leads Chicago 9-8. But Chicago with the ball in the restart. Chicago in black and New York City in red. Here's Chicago looking on the attack, and Gabrielle Stillwell fouled there.
Chicago tried a quick restart, but if you're not in the right area, then the referee will bring it back.
Darling dumps it into the post. Well, looks like we're going to have a 7-meter throw as Yolanta Kunakite spun around the pivot.
And this one was called because the defensive player was probably in the 6-meter, and that's an automatic 7-meter penalty if the defense is too far in.
Again, you see the long line there is 7 meters away from the goal. The restraining line at 4 meters. And save! Milokovic comes up with another stellar save. And here in the waning minutes of the first half, momentum going into the intermission can be very important. It's 9-8 New York. They look for more. And they get more with Nicoletta Marcara with her first goal of the game. New York 10, Chicago 8, under 5 minutes to play now. Chicago needs to answer. And Francie Mooring hits the deck.
Chicago was looking for a call on the quick restart. And didn't get what they thought they should have.
And you'll see players, again, you've got to dribble. You can take 3 steps and you got to dribble. You'll see a lot of times players, the ball just moves so quickly from player to player that there's no time to dribble, but players will do that as this game has slowed just a bit here now with 4:20 to play in the first half. Schmidt backs it back out to Sturck, now on right wing. Aylin Toto. Sturck gets it back. Sturck again. To Makara, and that one went out here to the near side. Went out off a Chicago player. So it'll stay with New York with under 4 minutes to play in the half. Sturck comes in and misses, but a whistle. It looks like we're going to have another 7-meter throw and a yellow card.
Now the great thing about this is there's a type of continuation in handball. If she had scored it, they would have allowed the goal and then given the card, but since she didn't, they're awarding the 7-meter.
And here's something you'll see. This is a common strategy on 7-meter throws. They'll switch keepers just to kind of change things up a little bit. Georgia Markarian Matai, a Romanian player, is in specifically for this throw from Schmidt, and Schmidt pays her no mind.
Yeah, it's a strategy to try to give a different look, a different size goalie, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
In this case, Schmidt just picked out a corner and buried it. New York 11, Chicago 8.
When you shoot that well, I don't think it matters which goalie is in there.
3:07 to play. First half as Darling muscles her way in and scores. This is going to be the Kathy Darling Annika Schmidt show.
I think so.
5 goals for Kathy Darling on the day. Teams within 2 again at 11-9. Under 3 minutes to play now in the first half. Now New York a little bit more deliberately. That one's bounced wide of the goal by Alexandra Miknevich. And Jackie Messel, who departed just for that 7-meter throw, is now back in there in the goal. Chicago trails at 11-9. They've got the ball with 2:25 to play in the first half. And before Jeanson can get tied up, she gets rid of the ball. It's fouled there by Annika Schmidt. Here's the restart. Darling down in the corner. Gabrielle Stillwell hit there.
This is where I think Chicago's their best because they have a lot of half-court plays where they can restart, and wear the defense down.
Need a goal here to get back to within 1. We're under 2 minutes to play in the first half. Darling. Jeanson, Stankovic-Ute off on the wing. Tabby Hardison.
There it is.
And our first 2-minute send-off of the first half comes with 1.5 minutes to go.
And I believe that was called, she hooked her arm as she was going towards the goal, and that's, you can't hook when they're trying to shoot, so that's where the 2 minutes coming from.
And so they have to play a player down regardless of whether or not Chicago scores. It's not like in hockey where you get free if the other team scores. So they can score as many as they can here in this end of the first half period. Almost too many steps there by Tabby Hardison. Crowd wanted to call. And if Chicago doesn't get any closer to the goal, or if they get stopped by Milokovic like that one, they're not going to get any closer now with 1:09 to go, the clock running. And New York leading it 11-9.
Now New York is going to try to run out the clock without getting a pass because they're down a man and try to preserve their lead.
So you have to kind of be deliberate without looking like you're stalling.
Absolutely.
So you must make a legitimate attempt to score. Kara passed that one up. And we're going to have a timeout by New York with 45 seconds left in the half. Again, each team gets one timeout per half, and you got to use it judiciously. And if you've got a man disadvantage, it's not a bad idea. Let your other players who are on the floor get a little bit of a rest and set your strategy here for the last 45 seconds, up by 2. So what would you do here in this situation?
Well, what I think they're going to do is they're going to try to have a set play to get Schmidt open for a shot, probably closer to 30 seconds in, because about 30 seconds is what they're allowed to before the ref will call something, and try to get a goal before the half is over, since they're going to start the second half a man down to finish the 2 minutes.
And if you're Inter, obviously you want to keep that from happening, and one way to do that is to, I guess, foul quickly.
They're going to try to foul quickly and try to do anything they can to get the ball back so they can use the advantage.
As they trail it by 2, 11-9. We have 45 seconds to go. Chicago down 2 goals, but up a player as Marlene Sturck was sent off 2 minutes with just about a minute and a half to go in the half. And now off the restart, here we go. And Schmidt and Darling collide, and that's one of the few times where Annika Schmidt is going to be at a size disadvantage in this game or any other that she plays.
Absolutely.
See it, do it again. And meanwhile, the seconds tick away now, 24 seconds left. Will New York get one more shot off before the intermission? Schmidt, 15 seconds left. Dishes it off. They get it in the corner. Aylin Toto, it's stolen away. Here comes a fast break if they can work quickly. 8 seconds to play. Jeanson. It's tied up there by Schmidt, and there may not get a chance. No, the referee said no, we were not prepared to do that.
What happens on a restart is the other team has to be outside of the 9, and Chicago went in too soon.
The clock did stop here with 2 seconds to go, and they're going to call Lars Jorgensen over to get a clarification here as to whether or not the clock did stop. A lot of times those last few seconds can just tick off and you may never get a chance to take the shot, but she's going to have to move quickly here. They're going to try to get it to Kathy Darling, who gets up, gets it away, and it's stopped appropriately by Milokovic. And the first half comes to a close. An exciting first 30 minutes sees New York leading Chicago 11-9, maybe a little bit less scoring than we thought, T.
Absolutely. I think both teams came out focusing on their defense, and I think that's why the game is so low scoring. Also, I think both goalies are doing a really nice job making some great saves. We see 7-meter saves. We see some fast break saves. So I think that is keeping the goal scoring down.
Take us through this last set play here, T. They had a little wall here, and they're trying to set up Darling for a shot.
So what happens is both teams, you have to have a 3-meter distance. And what you do is you want to, offensively, you want to set up a wall so that you push back and keep the hands down on the defense and allow your offensive player to shoot over it. And what happens here is, as you see, when they start the whistle, you toss it, everybody backs up, tries to take a hand down, and Kathy shoots from distance. And usually that's a pretty good play. That's, again, says a lot for the goalie because that's a very difficult shot to see over the top because a lot of times you don't see the ball till it's coming right at you.
Well, especially with those trees that Chicago put in that 3-person wall.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not often that you'll have a player who actually can look over the own wall that she's trying to shoot over, but Kathy Darling, a very big player, and she was a big factor in the first half with 5 of her team's 9 goals, so even doing a little bit better than she had done during the early stages of this tournament when she scored about a third of Chicago's 94 goals in this tournament. So we are here at halftime. It is the women's final of the 2011 Berta Sport USA Team Handball National Championships. We're at the Salt Palace Convention Center in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm Ken Tomash along with Tia Buai. And so we didn't see as much offense maybe as we thought, but we're still on pace to have some 40 goals in this game. So now if you are New York, are you pleased with the way you played and you want to just keep that going in the second half?
I think they're pleased, and I think when they look at the score sheet just like you did, they're going to say, wow, we gave too many goals up to Kathy. We haven't made anybody else on the other team hurt us. So I think you're going to see a slightly change in the defense. They're going to continue to push the fast break because Chicago is older, and I think that's where they're going to try to get their advantage.
And the other thing for New York that's good news for them, if you're New York, is you're up 11-9, and Annika Schmid only has 3 goals.
Yes.
So you're getting contributions, and you're really getting good work defensively at the other end, except for obviously on Kathy Darling, but she does that to a lot of people.
Yeah, she does, and I think New York should be happy because it's balanced. Some other people are really stepping up and playing very well, and I think conversely on Chicago's side that they're really probably disappointed with some of their offensive play. They probably should have got a few more shots from other people and did a little bit better job defensively.
Each of these two teams in the semifinals last night allowed just 10 goals in the second half. So second half clamping down defense, that's where you can really, if you can get things going and get your own fast break going, where you can really win games defensively.
I think so. I think this is going to come down again to the goalies. It's going to be really interesting to see how many stops the goalies get, how much momentum they have going on. So it'll be a tough half.
And both goalies have been terrific here in the first half. I mean, we saw 20 goals scored between the two teams, but Milokovic has been outstanding, and so has Jackie Messel. Look at the top scorers from the women's tournament who are playing in this game. Annika Schmid, as we told you, had 33 coming in to lead all scorers. She picked up 3 more in the first half, so she's got 36, and Kathy Darling had 31 coming in. She had 5 in the first 30 minutes, so those two are now tied for the top spot in this entire tournament at 36. You see a few other New York players, and Malin Jeanson, a newcomer to the Chicago roster, with 17. They were getting contributions from a lot of folks. 2 years ago, it was Jolanta Kunkite who was the MVP of the tournament and the leading scorer. She may score a little bit less these days, but there's no doubting her presence on the floor. Those are the other veterans that they have.
Oh, absolutely, and I think that if New York is looking, they're happy that they kept those other goal scorers low. I think they're just happy to be up because they've had a difficult time with Chicago, and Chicago doesn't go into halftime losing much. I haven't seen them do that many times in any tournament, so I think New York is happy. But I'm almost sure Chicago's going to come out a lot more intense. They're going to push it. They're going to do a lot more movement. It's going to be a very, very difficult lead to keep.
And Chicago, strangely enough, which was not the case a year ago, they've got a slightly deeper bench than New York has. New York only has 12 players with them. There are 15 players on Chicago's roster, and maybe not all of those players will see a lot of action, but you can get some fresh legs in here from time to time.
I think when a game is this close, having a deep bench actually works very well for you because you can have somebody come in, just play defense. If you'll see the second half, you might see a lot more offensive and defensive switches where somebody's just going to play offense, somebody else is just going to play defense, and it allows for your offensive players to be fresher and your defensive players to be fresher.
We are in Salt Lake City, Utah, and you're watching live coverage of the 2011 Bird of Sport USA Team Handball Club National Championships. We're at the Salt Palace Convention Center in downtown Salt Lake City. Last year's event was in Salt Lake City, or it was in Las Vegas rather. This is the first year that it's in Salt Lake. Next year, plans are to have this tournament in Minneapolis. So moving it around a little bit. And as this sport continues to grow, we see pockets of it. The Northeast has always been fairly strong, represented today by New York, obviously. We saw the team from West Point here. It's big in North Carolina, at the University of North Carolina. Obviously big with a long tradition in Chicago. But we're seeing impressive teams pop up around the country, in Denver, in Minnesota, places where this sport is starting to take hold.
Yeah, there's a team from Seattle. There's teams all over, and I think the great thing is it's easier to get started in New York City or Chicago because of the European influence. There's a lot more immigrants. There's a lot of little pockets of European, fans. But I think that the United States, the Federation, has done a very good job getting handball out and about and around in different places. To be able to have a national championship in Minneapolis says a lot of where handball has come over the last 5 or 6 years.
How did you first discover the sport and get involved in it?
Well, I can honestly tell you the first time I saw it was on the Goodwill Games on television. And then I was a volleyball coach for a Division I school in Baltimore. And one of the administrators said, I think you'd be really good at team handball. I have a friend who's in it. You should go for a tryout. So I went for a tryout, and they're like, "Oh, you're not too bad," and and I've been there ever since. But I'm a little short, so I can say that I was a short volleyball player in college, and I'm a short handball player. So, I'm keeping this short tradition going.
And now captain of the U.S. national team, which will play in the Pan Am Games in Guadalajara in October. And, of course, we wish you and your teammates, obviously, the very best. And if this looks like fun to you, you saw in the Goodwill Games, we know that Gabe Goodrow, who is now the goalkeeper for the U.S. men's national team, saw it on TV and said, hey, I could do that. He was a hockey player. If you're watching this, wherever you're watching this, and you think this either looks like fun, this looks like something I'd like to try, if you go to usateamhandball.org, you can find out if there's a club in your area. There are clubs all over the country, some just starting out, some more established, but you can find people who like the sport like you, get together, get out into a gym. All you need really is a couple of goals. It's the court itself is not much bigger than a basketball floor, a little bit bigger. You get some balls. The Federation can even help you out, maybe getting some gear and stuff. And all you got to do is get out and throw the ball around and learn to play it, and you'll find out how much fun it is. And we see people, when we'll see it in the men's game, who are playing this game into their 40s and 50s, playing it at a high level, playing it very competitively and very fiercely because they love the game. It's an easy game to love, isn't it?
It's a very easy game to love, and I think that there's so many different qualities from other sports that Americans would really enjoy. It's fast-paced, there's a lot of scoring, there's contact, and I'm actually surprised, since I've been in it, that it's not more popular in the United States because it has so many elements that Americans like to watch. But if you're watching it and you like it, definitely get onto the website and see if you can find a team, because we're always looking to add more and more people just to play, to make nationals bigger, to get people onto the national team. So we really want people to get involved.
Well, the signs of progress are there. I mean, our national teams are obviously improving. We're identifying young players. Our youth national team has some exciting young talent, guys who have only picked up the sport, and guys and girls, in the last year and a half or so. We're seeing more matches like this broadcast live. The Battle of Chicago last summer broadcast around the country. Now, if we see ESPN is supposedly going to show the Pan Am Games, so you'll get some exposure that way. It can only grow from here.
And hopefully it will. And I think I've been to different countries all around the world and played handball. And every time they said, we're really scared that if this gets popular in the United States, we're never going to win any gold medals anymore. So everybody's hoping we don't get into it. So we're trying to get people out.
You talked about your team having a little different style that's a little bit different than what we see in the rest of the hemisphere. Is there an American style? Because in some other sports, I'm speaking specifically of soccer, Americans play, they're hard-nosed, they're tenacious, defense, not as much skill or flair as you see elsewhere around the world. Is there an American handball style?
I think so. I think one of the things that Americans are, we hit a lot harder. We're a lot more physical. We like to run, but we run in a different kind of control. We're not a traditional fast-breaking team, so we do a lot of things that are a little bit different than what other people see. You haven't seen it here. American defense will go out and play man-to-man and a lot of different defenses, so it makes us a little bit harder team to play in this hemisphere.
So it's a little bit different than what you've seen from these two teams. The physicality is there. We have seen that. And if you're Inter at this point, now you're down 11-9, but this is far from their first rodeo. They were national champions in 2008 and 2009. They expect to be in a final like this, and they're not fazed at all by being down by 2 at the half. Now it's up to New York to make sure that experience doesn't come into play and that they can continue to keep their foot on the throttle the last 30 minutes.
Absolutely. I think mentally Chicago's fine. They're not worried about it. They're going to go out and they still believe they can win. I think New York is a team that's going to win or lose this mentally because the momentum can change so fast that if they're not, prepared and believe that they can get the game, that Chicago can run over them.
I told you, still a fairly new player on the scene, only their second year on the scene really as a contender as this New York side here in red. Meanwhile, Chicago in the final for the 4th consecutive year. They expect to be here. And so we'll see now as New York will have the ball first to start the second half. It is New York 11, Chicago 9. This is the second of 2 30-minute overtimes, or 30-minute halves. And we had a little confusion about New York had one too many players on the floor.
They forgot about their 2 minutes from the last half.
It carries over. Yeah, they will play the last 30 seconds or so of this second half. Down a player, but they do have possession, so they can burn off, if they're effective, they can burn off at least some of that time and get Marlene Sturck back from her 2-minute stay in the sin bin. We're just underway in the second half. New York in red, leading 11-9 against Chicago in black, but New York is down a player. And Tabby Hardison fouls Monica Zielinska there. And they have killed off the penalty. So we're back to 6-on-6 in front of the goalkeepers, and Chicago comes up with a defensive stop to start the second half.
Fast hands. You don't usually see steals like that in open court in handball.
Here's Kathy Darling, who had 5 goals in the first half. New York's bench wanted a double dribble there. They didn't get the call. And now Gosia Gumka is number 10. She's in for her first action of the game, running the point at center back. As Kathy Darling is fouled there. Alexandra Miknevitz on right wing. It's Malin Jeanson. Jeanson gets it back to Gunka. Now Jeanson with those long strides dishes it off, and on right wing she went into the area. That's the kind of downward facing hand gesture. That means the player went into that 6-meter zone. That is verboten. New York back the other way with the lead and the ball. Big save by Messel. Off the shot by Miknevitz.
Yeah, so far it's a defensive battle. I think both teams are coming out and trying to set a tone, and we'll see how this is going to work out.
Gunka gets it to Jeanson on right wing there. To Darling. Dumps it into the pivot. And Kunakite scores her 3rd of the match. Gets him within 1 at 11-10 with 28 minutes to go in the game.
New York changed their defense and it worked against them.
Schmidt dishes that one off to Zielinska, and she gets fouled in the post. We're just underway in the second half with New York leading Chicago 11-10. Championship match of the women's tournament here at the 2011 Berta Sport USA Team Handball National Club Championships. As Monica Zielinska tried to force her way in there, but she was fouled first.
Ball movement's going to be a key for both teams. If they try to go one-on-one, it's going to be a very hard half for both teams.
Well, there is no tomorrow, so may as well leave it all out there on the floor. It's a championship final.
They have the passes call again.
You see the referee with his arm crooked at the elbow, and that means get on with it. There you see Jackie Messel, who's been stellar for Chicago. Both goalkeepers have been stellar, really.
Absolutely.
The other end, Ivana Milokovic with some big saves in that first half. It's a 1-goal game with just under 27 minutes to play in regulation. We will have overtime if this match is tied, but we're a long ways from that. Here's Gunka tied up. You didn't see Gunka in the first half as she was standing on the sidelines coaching this team. And she gets hammered from behind by Monica Zielinska.
Now it's important to remember, like I was telling earlier, extracurriculars, sometimes the offensive player will pull the defensive player down to try and get a 2-minute call.
When you're 34 years old, you'll feel that, but she's actually one of the younger players on Inter. Stankovic is 38, and Kunakite is 37. And here's New York again, looking to pad the lead, and again Messel comes up with a big save and the fist pump. Oana Hodos, that shot from left wing. You see Aylin Toto, number 2, on right wing, as Hodos is fouled at the 6-meter. Talked about Jackie Messel's big day. Took that one on the thigh. Doesn't feel it now, but she will in the morning.
Yes, she will. That came pretty fast.
Schmidt fouled there by Malin Jeanson. And kept Schmidt pretty much in check in that first half. Only 3 goals. And that one she tried. Sometimes you'll see players do that, try to bounce it in. Hard shot off this floor, but it went a little too high.
Yeah, it's actually a good play. What they're doing now is they're stopping the clock because the ball went way far away. And it's a good shot. This is a nice 30-second break as Chicago's getting water over here.
I told you the clock rarely stops, but if the ball does manage to get outside that net and go under a table like it did just there, you'll get a few precious seconds. Chicago with a chance to tie now. They're down 11-10. Gunka.
The play's getting a lot more physical out here now.
just under 25 minutes to go as Kunikite is fouled in the block. She's been through this so many times. She just gets up and says, let's go to the next play. Off on right wing. And now we've got a player down from New York, with New York leading 11-10 with 24 minutes and 35 seconds to go. And surprising, with as many bodies as get thrown around in this game and as many as hit the surface, that we don't see more of this, but players are very resilient, and you see the motion there. She may have taken a shot in the throat.
And sometimes you just need a second. The one thing about handball that's different from other sports is that you don't have to come out if there's an injury stop. The ref allows a few, 30 seconds, a minute. If you want to stay in, you can. So that's one of the different aspects of handball.
And all these guys, including the guys watching and the people playing, they understand that. You don't want to come out of the game. You want to stay out there and help your team as much as possible. Gunka gets hit hard. Stolen by New York, but alertly, Kunikite at least broke that up for the time being, stopped the fast break. And now the steal made at the other end by Jeanson, and here comes Chicago on the break. Tabby Hardison scores. We're tied at 11. 24-10 to play in the half.
New York's getting a little sloppy with the fast break, and Chicago did a really nice job pressing him in the open floor.
Nice dish by Jeanson. And Hardison had it read all the way. We're tied at 11. Just under 24 minutes to go in regulation of this championship match in the women's division. New York in red against Chicago in black. That shot is blocked before it ever got near the goalkeeper. And now Chicago with a chance to take the lead. Kathy Darling. Gabrielle Stillwell. Darling has it back, looks for an opening, can't find one. Does find her teammate who scores.
Chicago's doing a very nice job using Kathy to draw the defense and allow the circle to be open.
Another injury as Kunikite scored her fourth there to give Chicago the lead, and with 23:07 left to go, Zielinska gets up a little gingerly.
Kathy Darling gets to 2 minutes here.
So Darling is sent off now.
And what happens is when somebody passes you, you're not allowed to continue with them when you're on their backside, so that's an automatic 2 minutes in most games.
So now New York will enjoy the advantage of the extra player with 23 minutes to go. Again, they can score as many times as they can and still remain a man up. We're under 23 minutes to play. Tried to find Schmidt in there, and Schmidt drew a crowd. Sturck, rather. Marlene Sturck, as Schmidt is out up high. Now they find Sturck. It goes off her hands. Foul call.
Now, I don't know if you can hear the New York coaches. What they're telling New York to do is move it from one side to the other because they're up a man, and what's happening is they're getting stuck in the middle, and they're wasting their 2 minute advantage. See?
Jackie Messel comes up with the loose ball, and so an opportunity goes by the boards for New York. They had a good chance there to tie the game and maybe do more. And now here's where Chicago, again, has to burn some clock without really looking like they're burning some clock. Got to make legitimate attempts to score, and as Yolanta Kunikite turned, she was fouled. Muscling her way in and scoring is Gabrielle Stillwell. That's her first of the match. Chicago 13, New York 11. 21:40 left as Schmidt answers at the other end with her fourth. That's what we expected out of number 15 today.
I think she's going to start turning up here as the game is at a critical point to both teams.
Again, New York still has man advantage. Gumka. We're going to have a 7-meter throw here, as Kunikite is just terrific at taking the ball in the post, turning, and with no regard for her body or the opponent or what anybody else is doing, just trying to get that ball home. As we see Marlene Sturck Down again. She's up now and fine.
Well, you never want somebody to fall on top of you. That's always going to be. But she does do a nice job of getting the defense to push in, be inside of the 6, and draw 7 meters.
Marlene Stirk, their third leading scorer during this tournament, and it is Yolanta Kunikite with her team leading 5th of the game, tied with Kathy Darling, who has yet to score in the second half, but is back in after serving her 2-minute penalty. And she will collapse there on Julia Ullman. Break up that play. It's 14-12. Chicago now has retaken the lead after trailing 11-9 at the break.
Being the veteran team, I think they're really showing their composure, and New York's actually starting to show that they're falling apart a little bit.
And this is what we talked about at halftime. We expected that mentally it would be New York's to lose and Chicago's to win.
Absolutely. And it's going to be very difficult to get a lead back from Chicago in the second half of a game.
As you guys found out last night.
Absolutely.
With just over 20 minutes to play, as Kunikite from her knees gets that one ahead for Jeanson, but Schmidt breaks it up.
Now the call was foot. Again, you can't have the ball hit below your knee. It's an automatic turnover.
Now Julia Ullman, who has just come back in, and instructed to get into the pivot. It's Tabby Hardison. Fouls there. Schmidt. Kunikite tried to make a steal, that bounced it onto right wing, and there you see that one floated in, and again the save made by Jackie Messel off the floater by Miknovich.
Now that floater is a very difficult shot to score on. When you do it, you have to make sure the goalie comes all the way out, and yeah, it's a very difficult shot. It was a nice attempt, but that was a great save for Jackie Messel.
Now Kathy Darling. Kunikite in the post, stolen away by Schmidt. 3-on-1 break. Schmidt is determined and scores.
I think I knew when she got the steal from the other side, she wasn't going to pass it.
Yeah, the rest of you, just watch. 5th goal of the match, 38th of the tournament. And her team is back within 1 with just over 19 minutes to play. It's Chicago 14, New York City 13. Chicago in black with the lead and the ball. And Kathy Darling is fouled there. Tabby Hardison losing the ball. Out on the side, and New York will bring it back with a chance to tie with 18.5 minutes to play in the game. And as Zylinska tried to force her way in there, she was fouled.
New York's going to have to go back to what they were doing before, and pressing and being aggressive on offense.
Schmidt bounces it into the corner, now gets it back. Ellen Jeanson introduces herself there. Zelinska. Taking that one in the face.
It's getting really physical now.
Hannah Hodos was fouled. She tried to get an angle on right wing. Schmidt! Oh, going underground for that one.
The key for New York is to utilize the restarts because they're going to have to allow space. That was a great play for those guys and a fantastic shot.
We talked about her power over that time. She saw an opening and finessed it in. We're tied at 14. 17.5 minutes to play in regulation. Kunikite drawing triple coverage in the post and a foul.
New York's definitely turning up their defense to not allow some easy goals.
This is what we expect out of a championship final. We are tied at 14 with just over 17 minutes to play. Both teams expecting no quarter and giving none. Kunikite with her 6th goal of the match. She's tied with Annika Schmidt for 6 goals that lead all scorers. Look, and that's not as easy as you might think with someone tugging on your shirt on the way.
She did a nice job of getting the goal and turning the defensive player to the backside.
We're under 17 minutes to play now in the second half. Loose ball very nearly resulted in a turnover. Schmidt looking towards a goal, and Kunikite gets her around the neck. This time Darling wraps her up, and actually Schmidt never did go down.
And she hasn't yet. The crowd is upset because if you get somebody in the face, it's supposed to be automatic 2 minutes, so they're getting kind of close here.
Referees have let some things go today. Tabby Hardison on that foul. Schmidt tries again, and this time it's off the foot of Jackie Messel. You could do that once, but I think Messel was ready for it the second time.
I think so. I think she's going to have to move that around a little bit more, but it was a good look.
Now Darling, Kunikite, a little bit too strong. Fast break. Zelinska. Can Zelinska score? No.
Wow.
And you hear the New York fans and the men's players on the other side aghast that there was no call there.
I'm a little shocked too on a fast break. Usually if you get bumped on a fast break, they give the call to the offensive player. Not so that time. It was an ambitious 1-on-3 though.
Inter with the ball and the lead, 15-14. We've got just over 15 minutes to play in the second half. Championship final. First of two we'll have for you. That one is blocked on its way towards the goal. It'll be Inter's men against New York City's men in the second match. And if you think this is physical,
that's going to be a doozy.
It is. Boy, the New York-New England, or the New York-Boston semifinal last night was rough and tumble.
They used a lot of ice afterwards last night.
All right, here's the situation. 14:32 to play in regulation. Chicago leading New York 15-14. New York in red on the attack, looking to tie this game up. And speaking of tied up, that's exactly what Gabriella Stillwell did to Monika Zelinska there. Off the restart. Alexandra Miknovitz lost the handle, got it back. And another restart. Schmidt. Goes low, and that time it goes. Her 7th goal of the match.
And like we were saying earlier, because the restart allows the defense to have 3 meters back, it gives her just enough space to kind of dice the goalkeeper there.
We're tied at 15. 13:45 to play in regulation. This one's going down to the wire. Off on left wing. Another shot by Milokovic. Stillwell with the shot and Milokovic with the save. And off the turnover, Chicago coming back the other way.
And if those at home haven't noticed, New York City started picking up Kathy Darling man-to-man, as we thought they would the second half, to not allow her to get so many goals, easy goals.
Another terrific save by Milokovic. Both goalkeepers have been outstanding today. Stillwell fouled. Tabby Hardison, ball on the floor, and a foul call. Darling to Gunka. Gunka passes up the shot, tries to dish it back into Kunikite, who gets spun to the deck. Zelinska on the break. And she's just muscled off the ball by Malin Jeanson.
Great defensive play. She held the ball instead of the player, so she just got the 9-meter restart.
He's stepping on the line.
Now off the restart. .12:18 to play as Marlene Sturck shot, but she was fouled before that. Now here's another one of those set pieces like we saw towards the end of the first half. But Schmidt took a little bit too long to develop.
Yep. And she has another one, so I think they're going to try it again here.
Under 12 minutes to play now. Schmidt to Sturck. Tabby Hardison wraps up Zelinska. Zelinska can't get around Kathy Darling. Schmidt now. .11.5 minutes to play. Tied at 15 and now untied.
That was a great shot. I think everybody was looking for Schmidt to score, and she came in with a quick shot right down the middle.
Got it again. It's Monika Zielinska with the goal. Her third. And we're going to have a 7-meter throw at the other end.
The reason why you hear the crowd being upset is in handball you can usually get a shot or the 7-meter, but not both, and she was able to get both this time.
Nikite looking to tie the score. She has 3 seconds to get rid of it, and Milokovic stopped it.
I don't know if anybody at home realizes, I think a 7-meter is supposed to be 90% for the shooter and 10% for the goalie, and she's already stopped 2 tonight.
And Kunikite just puts her head down, goes back to the other end, and will work to try to make a stop here. New York leads at 16-15. And loose ball on the floor, but the foul first. Look at this again. She guessed right. And now Schmidt at the other end, right into Messel's hands. And Messel will break it long. A little too long, as it turned out. She put that one over the head of Malin Jeanson.
It was a good look for Chicago, but that was a mental error for New York. They kicked the ball on their restart.
Now Chicago can tie it. We're under 10 minutes to play in the second half. Stillwell draws the foul. Hardison back up to Jeanson. 9:25 to play in the game. Off the restart now. Becky Darling. There's Shagunka. Tried to flip that one on to left wing to Stillwell. It's out of play. Off the hands of a New York player. Gunka lost the handle. Again, loose ball on the floor, but a whistle first.
Turnovers are going to be key here in the last 9 minutes. Whoever can capitalize off them is going to have the advantage.
New York with the lead and the ball, and 8 minutes and 45 seconds to play in this championship final. Schmidt dishes it off, and Julia Ullman can't find any room. Chicago thought they had a turnover there, but the foul came first. Marlene Sturck there, number 17, fouled. New York leading at 16-15. They have the ball. And Annika Schmidt taken down. Nothing but a foul. Restart.
Now it's key here. If you don't look like you're going to shoot, it's kind of like the NBA. They won't give you the 7-meter.
And Ohana Hodos sent that one high over the bar. 7:57 to play in the second half. Chicago black with the ball, trailing 16-15, and a chance to tie it up this trip. Darling, who has been scoreless in the second half after 5 goals in the first half. Watches as that one nearly goes in, but it skipped across the face of the crossbar. Now the restart. Things getting really physical there.
Really physical now.
Under 7.5 to play. Chicago looking to tie it. Set piece. Kunikite scores and ties it up. Her 7th goal of the match.
Chicago is deadly in the half court, especially off restarts. They have several plays to get different people open for open looks like that.
Even when it doesn't appear to be open. I mean, that's as open as it gets sometimes.
Yeah, oh yeah.
7:05 to play. We're tied at 16. And New York's Marlene Sturck draws the foul. Annika Schmidt will force her way in. Now Schmidt takes this off the restart. Hodos. New York looking for an opening. Chicago wants timeout, and they will get it with 6 minutes and 37 seconds to play in the second half of this championship match. You have to have possession of the ball to be able to call the timeout, so Chicago waited until they did get the ball back, called that timeout. We're tied at 16, It's the championship match of the women's division of the 2011 Berta Sport USA Team Handball National Championships from the Salt Palace Convention Center in Salt Lake City, Utah. Ken Tomash and U.S. National Team Captain T. Abui with you. And T, now 16-16 games, 6.5 minutes to go. It's all there to play for. What does each team have to do down the stretch?
Well, down the stretch, I think Chicago has to continue to run their half court and take out Schmidt on the defensive side. I think if they could do that, they'll be able to get a few points and hurt New York offensively. New York, on the other hand, has to come out a little bit, put a little more defensive pressure and try to create fast breaks for their offense because right now, offensively, they look a little bit unsure and not able to get somebody else to score so that Schmidt can get open.
I told you this is the first time Nationals have been here in Salt Lake City, Utah, where USA Team Handball, national governing body for the sport in this country, is based. And it's been a terrific weekend.
Oh, it's been beautiful. The weather's been great. This is my first time in Salt Lake City, and the snow-capped mountains, I think every time I walk out, I think it's the most beautiful thing in the world. So this is a great place. It's been a great tournament.
Some 400 players on 28 different teams in 3 different divisions descended here on Salt Lake City, and these are the 2 left standing in the women's division. Chicago Inter in black with the ball, founded in 1991. And looking for yet another title, and we're going to get a 2-minute call here on Julia Ullman. Not quite sure why, but they're going to come to the table, and
I believe he said illegal substitution. So what that means is even after a timeout, you still have to come within the substitution area, and if you walk out even afterwards as a new substitution, then it's an automatic 2 minutes.
Again, and maybe that's the kind of mental lapse that we talked about.
Absolutely.
That New York, being still a little bit new to this, doesn't think of all the little details. Chicago now a man up in a tie game, and they're going to have a couple minutes here to work to try to get some padding here if they can get the lead. Darling. Oh, that one took a circuitous route to get there, but her first goal of the second half gives Chicago the lead at 17-16, and we've got 6:05 to play.
And this is really difficult for New York because you don't want to start after a timeout with 2 minutes on something like that. You're down 1. It gives Kathy a lot of space to shoot.
That hit a defensive player's hand on the way in, hit the floor, and then bounced up and in. Annika Schmidt, not to be denied at the other end. Her 8th goal of the match. We're tied again at 17 with 5:45 to play. Oh, and Gabrielle Stillwell. Not enough stickum, apparently.
And that's a shocker, too. But again, that's something that Chicago didn't want to do. They're up a player. They want to try to run it fast. But a turnover is a killer at this particular point in time.
Just under a minute to go in the penalty. And New York in red. In a 17-17 game, down a player, but they could have eaten some time. They did need a few seconds, but they turned the ball back over. And now Chicago in black with a chance to take the lead this trip with just over 5 minutes to play in regulation. Loose ball will skip out to Gosha Gunka. Back it up top to Kathy Darling. As Julia Ullman gets set here in the substitution lane. Just check back in when her penalty expires. Stillwell gives Chicago the lead with her 2nd goal of the match.
And that's what happens when you're down a man. If you move the ball quickly enough, the defense can't shift to make up for the difference, and you end up with a wing shot like that.
About 10 seconds left in the penalty. Chicago, which trailed 11-9 at the break, now leads it 18-17. Ullman gets free, so Chicago only got 1 goal with the man advantage, but they have the ball back.
Oh, and the ref got taken out by one of the New York players.
And coincidentally, it was Julia Ullman who had just been sent off by that very same ref for a substitution infraction, and so she's going to call that karma, and we're going to call that an owie. Very painful knee injury here to one of the New York players.
And this is going to be tough for New York because she's a playmaker for them. She's somebody that keeps the machine running pretty smoothly. So if she's not able to get back in, then somebody else is definitely going to have to step up to kind of keep the flow of the offense.
Working there on Monika Zielinska. And she's apparently unable to put weight on it. And she has been all over this floor today. She's been giving as good as she's gotten. But at the moment, the knee will not allow her to continue. We've got 4 minutes and 20 seconds, so whether they'll be able to work on that right knee and maybe get her back in this match or not, we don't know. But with a continuously running clock, or almost continuously running clock, you don't get a lot of time. There's no TV timeouts to work
here.
on an injured player.
Not here, and she didn't even get back to her bench, so that doesn't look good for them.
Chicago with the lead, 18-17, and the ball. And just over 4 minutes to play, and Kunakite gets her 8th goal of the match. A little quiet, and she allows herself a little smile. You normally don't see that from the 37-year-old Lithuanian, but she knows that that gave her team a 2-goal advantage with 3:48 to play in the game.
Yeah, I think the injury plus having to come back down made it very difficult.
Schmidt loses the ball, but it's put home by Aylin Toto. That's her 3rd of the match. Gets him within 1 at 19-18 with 3.5 to play.
New York's going to have to work really hard on defense to get the ball back, to be able to get on offense, to get the game tied up.
New York needs a stop. You hear their men's team chanting defense on the other side of the floor. Darling back out up high. Jeanson. Jeanson looks inside, back to Darling. Darling sizes that one up, and the shot is saved by Milokovic. There was the stop they needed with 3:03 to play in the game. New York can tie it. Schmidt dishes it off.
Uh-oh.
And Makara, we're going to have another 2-minute. And who's being sent off now? Is it Kunakite?
I believe it is.
It looks like the veteran, Jolanta Kunakite, is going to be sent off, and we're going to have a 7-meter throw. Annika Schmidt for the tie. Yes!
Now this is going to be difficult for Chicago because they lost a veteran circle and somebody that gives them a lot of scoring. So we'll see what they do with this 2-minute penalty.
2:40 to play in regulation. Chicago down a player. We're tied at 19. And it's not just any player. It's Jolanta Kunakite who is sent off for 2 minutes. And it's time for Kathy Darling to make her presence felt. She had 5 goals in the first half, but just 1 here in the second half. Clock continues to run, 2:16 to play in the game. Tied at 19. Again, if we're tied, we'll play 2 5-minute overtimes, and if necessary, we'll go to 7-meter throws to decide this one. Nobody wants to see that, though.
No.
And now as Gosha Gunka took that one in the nose, they will briefly stop the clock with 2:05 to play.
It's really key for New York City if they want this game to get a stop here.
They'll be very careful with the ball. Dished off onto left wing. And Gabriella Stillwell picks a great time for her 3rd goal of the match. Under 2 minutes now, 1:50. Schmidt got fouled before she went out of bounds with that one. Chicago 20, New York City 19. And Jackie Messel comes up with another huge save.
New York City really didn't utilize the fact that they're up. They didn't work the ball around. They took a quick shot. And as we talked about before, I think that's more mental than anything else.
Minute 22 to play. Chicago enter in black. Down a man, but up a goal. Can they win their 3rd title in 4 years? They get it into Darling in the post, but before there, the foul called as Malin Jeanson was fouled there. 1:04 to play. And again, it was Stillwell feeling pretty good about herself after having just scored the goal that gave her team the lead.
Chicago's full now.
Kunakite back into the match, gets the ball. Stillwell stopped by Milokovic, but they get the ball back. And Tabby Hardison's tied up. Here's where, unlike basketball, fouling doesn't do you a lot of good because the clock continues to run.
Absolutely. So they kind of want to get back. They missed an opportunity there for a rebound and gave Chicago another chance.
They need to get the ball back. 25 seconds to play. Hardison back to Darling. 20 seconds to go. They've got to make an attempt to score, but a foul called here. We did have a passive play warning with 15 seconds to go. The clock is stopped.
And the passive continues, so they're going to have to shoot.
Chicago up 20-19. Free throw taken a little too early. 15 seconds to go. New York can't call timeout because they don't have the ball back. Now they do, and they will take the timeout with 10 seconds to go. Another big stop by Milokovic. And now we've got confusion reigning here as New York had the ball, from what I saw, but we're going to wait. They're going to sort it out. 9 seconds remain. Here we go. We've got it sorted out now. Chicago had to take a shot, and New York had to wait until they had possession before they could use their timeout. You only get 1.5. So now they'll have the ball with 9 seconds left, and everybody can get on the same page to try to get the tying goal.
It's going to be interesting because 9 seconds is a lot of time. It's kind of like basketball, and it's all going to depend on how New York utilizes their time. If they can stay composed and get the ball into their big shooters' hands, I think they'll be okay, but it'll be interesting to see if they can get the ball in.
We are in Chicago Inter's huddle. And we can bring you the audio, but it probably wouldn't do you a whole lot of good.
There's not a lot of English spoken in a lot of these huddles, so no, I don't think so.
All right, here we go. Here's the situation. 9 seconds to go. Women's gold medal match. New York trails it 20-19. They are in red with the ball. Now they have pulled the goalkeeper.
What they were trying to do is have an extra man advantage, but the new rule in handball to avoid something like that from happening is that the person that comes in has to have the same number as the goalie. So if you take the goalie out, you still have to have a number 1 somewhere.
Oh, wow. So now they've just let Milokovic come out as a field player. The last couple seconds are going to tick off, and the steal by Gabriella Stillwell ends it. The ball bounces at the other end into the goal, but no matter. Chicago, for the 3rd time in 4 years, has gutted out a gold medal at the 2011 Berta Sport USA Team Handball Club National Championships. And if you think it gets old, just look at this seed. It never gets old.
I don't think winning ever gets old, and Chicago did a really nice job tonight of coming back from the 2-point deficit at halftime. And like we said earlier, I think experience and composure played a lot to do with the second half and the swing for Chicago for this win.
New York led at 11-9 at the half. But Chicago came back and won it 20-19. The ending was a little bit frazzled. It was frenetic, but that's team handball. Inter wins the women's gold medal for the 3rd time in 4 years. And they take that bad taste out of their mouth, having lost last year's championship to Houston. But what a performance by New York. They're going to be a team that's going to be on the scene here for a ways to come, it looks like.
I think New York is disappointed in the fact that I think they went away from some of the things that got them the lead. They lost a little bit of their composure, but I think they're a very good team. They're very, very good. They played really hard. They're going to be back here in this championship again, and I think because of this experience, they're going to be a little more hungrier.
Well, New York, their men's team now will have a chance in the second game of our doubleheader here to win one for the Big Apple, but it's the first match goes to the second city as Chicago Inter beats New York Team Handball by the final score of 20-19. They are all smiles as they'll line up here for the traditional handshake to end it. And Inter got a lot of contributions from a lot of people, and when Kathy Darling didn't have the second half that she had in the first half, it was Kunakite who turned things on in the second half, and they got some key goals, including what turned out to be the game winner by Gabriella Stillwell.
It's very difficult because Chicago has a lot of weapons, and even though you see one for the length of the tournament, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the only person that can score, and I think the goal scoring can be deceptive sometimes because in any particular game, if you can exploit, the mismatch, then somebody else can step up for you.
And you may have seen the smiles on the faces of the Inter players, but if you can see the faces of the New York players, there are some real anguish, as if you think that this is just some little sport that you play on weekends. Not to these people.
Oh, no, and it means a lot to both teams, and I think, Chicago's a lot like the Lakers, when people really want to beat them and really want to get after them. So everybody's gunning for them every tournament. So for Chicago, it's really exciting for them to win again. And for New York, it's extremely disappointing for them to not win, especially being up at halftime. So they're extremely disappointed, I'm sure.
But it was a fitting championship, the kind of game that we expected to see. We saw 39 goals. We thought we'd see about 40. We saw good defense. Both goalkeepers played fantastically. And in fact, we're going to talk to Jackie Messel here in a little bit. But first, let's take a look at the game-winning goal, what turned out to be the goal that gave Chicago the lead, the win, and its third title in 4 years, and a shot from the wing.
I think it's really impressive. That's a very difficult shot to go over top of the goalie. Chicago is also down a man, so I think it's unbelievable that she was able to get that shot off and score at the end of the game.
Well, now we're joined by one of the stars of Chicago's win, and goalkeeper Jackie Messel. Your opposite number, who we see there, Ivana Milokovic, had a great match. But Jackie, you had an outstanding match as well. It's not often that goalkeepers get to be kind of the stars of the game. This is a game that more people think about offensively. But talk about the game that you had and how you felt.
It felt pretty good. It just certainly helps when you've got a lot of big, strong girls like Yolanta and Kathy on the defense in front of you. That helps tremendously. You can't do anything in the goal without good defense. But we were all fired up and ready to go. This is what we've been working for.
How did you feel after losing last year to Houston, and what did you do to come back this year and maybe change things up a bit?
Last year was a heartbreaker. We realized that we need to be in better shape. We need to be able to run. So we kind of focused on trying to find some younger girls and really focus on our fast game. But we knew it's all about our team and the way we play, and we just needed to play our game.
We're talking with Jackie Messel, who had a great game in goal for Chicago, who's now won 3 titles in 4 years. We talked about it at halftime. You were down 2 goals, but having been here so many times before, mentally, did that even affect you guys at halftime, being down 2?
I don't think so, because we knew that we had some mistakes in the first half. We had probably 4 turnovers that turned into fast breaks. You take that away, and we were in the lead. So we felt pretty comfortable. We knew they were going to be a strong team, and it'd be tough, but if we played our game, we knew we could come out on top. When
you have to play 4 or 5 games in the span of like maybe 50 hours or so, that fitness that you talked about, how key was that for you?
It's important. It's a tough sport. It's rough, but you get some rest. I mean, obviously, I don't sound very good right now, but we're doing okay. We've got some bumps and bruises, but.
And you've played the sport at a high level for a number of years. We can see on your faces that it doesn't get old winning a gold medal.
Oh, absolutely not. Definitely not. You can't give this up.
What do you think of this New York team?
Oh, it's fantastic. For a new team just starting out, to be able to put together a team like that, it's really great for our sport and really exciting to see that.
Is this something premature? You just won one. Can you guys get back and do it again with this cast of characters that you have?
Oh, we certainly think so.
Jackie Messel, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks,
fantastic game. Jackie Messel was terrific in goal as Chicago Inter beats the New York City Team Handball Club by a final score of 20-19. They win their 3rd championship in 4 years. Well deserved. They really gutted it out. They got contributions defensively. They got key stops when they needed to. And New York still not quite at the point where they are used to being in these types of games, so we saw little mistakes. They can make up for some of that with talent, and they've got some outstanding talented players. But in the end, Inter was just too much.
Absolutely, and if you listen to what Jackie was saying, at no point in this game did they think they were going to lose. And I think that composure and that mentality is what actually pushed them over. And I think if you were to talk to them and really get in the huddle, they'd be shocked that they only won by 1 because they feel like they made a lot of mistakes and it was their game to win or lose. So I think that experience, that composure, that mentality plays a lot into it. And, conversely on the other side with New York City, I think they were excited to get here. They got a little bit, upset when they made mistakes, and you could see how those mistakes kind of carried over and gave Chicago some easy goals.
But this is the kind of crucible for them that we know they're going to be back talent-wise, but can make them better next time. And next year in Minneapolis, they're obviously going to be a team to deal with.
Absolutely. I'd be shocked if New York wasn't in the top 3 or 4 next year. I think they're going to bring back everybody, and I think they're going to be a little bit hungry, and with the experience, nobody likes to see other teams celebrate like that, so I think they're going to be really hungry to get back in this game.
So the Chicago Inter Club is still celebrating, but they're going to be handing out hardware here in just a few minutes, and a lot of heroes. Certainly a lot of accolades to go around. The team photo will be one that they will cherish, and we've seen. We talked about the young players that have entered into this squad, and one of them, Gabriella Stillwell, ends up getting the game-winning goal. But still, that steadying influence of the veteran players that we've seen before. Yolanda Kuninkite led her team with 8 goals on the day. Had a big second half. and it was really that veteran leadership was also the difference down the stretch.
I think so. I think when Chicago needed a goal, they were always able to go to one of the veterans who got a goal in, and then later on, I think that momentum carried over to allow Gabrielle to get the goal, the game winner, and I think that was really important.
New York averaged 26 goals a game coming into the final, and Chicago holds them to just 19. That's a testament to not only good, you heard Jackie Messel talk about a goalie can only be as good as the defenders in front of her, and her defenders did an outstanding job, and she came up big when she had to.
I think it was really key that early out New York wasn't able to get somebody else to score. What happened was Chicago took out their top scorer, and then nobody else could step up, whereas in Chicago's case, when they took out Kathy Darling, there were 3 or 4 other characters that were able to come in and score, and I think that's what made the difference.
We talked about how the taste of the loss to the Houston Firehawks a year ago in Las Vegas, when the maybe veteran players was maybe a little bit of a liability. You heard Jackie Messel talk about how they had to get younger, they had to get more fit. The Houston Firehawks basically ran them out of the gym in Las Vegas. Not the case. You still saw their half-court game that they're more comfortable in, but they were still able to be a little bit more athletic, come through when they needed to. It was definitely a different inter team than we're used to seeing.
Absolutely. They were able to add another dimension to their game, which allowed them to be able to score some more goals in the fast break, not just half-court offense, and I think that balance is what allowed them to win the championship this year.
They are champions for the 3rd time in 4 years. Internacional of Chicago. Well-deserved. They get a 20-19 win over a New York City team handball team that just to our left is commiserating with each other, and there are some long faces and anguished expressions, but they know that they made a tremendous run just to get here as a young team that is still trying to become a player on this stage. Well, guess what? They are a player, and we're going to see their men's team play in just a bit, but the traditional team photograph in the net at one end, it was that net that Jackie Messel guarded ever so well, including down the stretch, as you see her in the middle there, number 16 from Mount Pleasant, Iowa, the 31-year-old who's been through this many a times, but a lot of new faces in black here today, and they swept through this tournament with a 5-0, a perfect 5-0 mark. And they win the final here today by a score of 20-19. And New York, meanwhile, we talked about it. I mean, they have a heavy European influence. Their tremendous player, Annika Schmidt, led all scorers with 9 goals in this game. It was just not enough. She ends up with an amazing 42 goals in 6 games in the tournament. Absolutely an outstanding player. And if they're able to keep this team together, you heard my partner T tell you that no doubt that next year they're going to be one of the top teams as we go to Minneapolis for Club Nationals. We're getting ready to hand out the hardware and hand out the trophies for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place here. And Inter will claim that trophy once again for the 3rd time in 4 years. We've seen some of the other games that were played here earlier today, as we had all classifications. Actually, my partner's New York Athletic Club Dynamo team is going to be getting a little trophy here, so my partner has to take off and go join the rest of her teammates. New York Athletic Club Dynamo squad. Winners of the 3rd place game, they'll take those medals and take them home. So teams from New York finish 2nd and 3rd in the women's draw. There is USA Team Handball Chairman Dieter Esch there in the blue jacket, who is first in line to hand out the medals. A lot of young players in this tournament, a lot of youth in this tournament, as you see the young faces on this New York Athletic Club Dynamo squad, but we're seeing a lot of young players coming into this game and making up the national team pool. That will no doubt help the United States as they attempt to continue to grow the sport and do well on the international stage. Of course, the U.S. women's national team has already qualified for the Pan Am Games in Guadalajara in October, and the men will have one last shot to do that in 3 weeks' time, as they'll go down to Guatemala and play a triangular tournament with Guatemala, and Uruguay. And by all indications, it's going to come down to that Uruguay match to see who gets the one last berth at the Pan Am Games for 2011. Here is the New York Athletic Club Dynamo team, which lost in the semifinals last night to Inter, but won the third place match today. And so they'll take those medals home and be very proud of those. And New York City's Team Handball Club is going to head out now with long faces. They'll take the second place trophy. Nice medal you got there, partner.
Thank you, thank you. I apologize for that.
That's all right. Go be with your teammates. And now the medal that really nobody wants to have put around their neck, that second place medal. You'll appreciate it later on, but for now the disappointment is one thing.
I would tell you from personal experience, I've come in second in the national championship, and you still never like the second place. You put it somewhere and hope that you can get a gold somewhere sometime later.
So you can say, yeah, and that other one, no, don't worry about that one. But look at this one.
You give it to your parents because they're always happy, or your kids or something. They always appreciate any kind of medal.
Marlene Sturck sharing a laugh with Dieter Esch there as she gets her medal. Aylin Toto, who had 3 goals in the final today. Nicoletta Makara. Ohana Hodos. Julia Ullman here. Kia Homan. Julia Mayer. Now Paula Beretti. And Annika Schmidt. Boy, she's fun to watch.
She's a lot of fun to watch. She's really physical. She has so many different shots. I think New York is probably going to step back and say, we did a lot more than I think anybody thought we could, and they're really going to appreciate this medal tomorrow, probably.
Our runners-up for 2011, New York City Team Handball Club. Now they can allow themselves a little bit of smile.
Very deserving, especially when you think they only lost by 1. So, they weren't blown out. For a new team, they really put it to them, and I think they played well, and they should really have their heads up high because they did a really nice job.
And to the victors go the spoils. Chicago Inter knows what that second place feeling is like. They experienced it a year ago when Houston beat them in Las Vegas, but they come back in a big way with a 20-19 win over New York City Team Handball Club here to win the championship in Salt Lake City. Jackie Messel gets a big hug from Dieter Esch. She was a stalwart today.
Chicago's so experienced, they even lined up from tallest to shortest, so they know exactly what they're doing out there.
You think they practice the medal ceremony?
I think they might. It's
They've been through it a few times.
Yeah.
Gita Stankovic there, number 15, didn't play as much as she had in years past, but Yolanta Kunakite certainly did with 8 goals. She was a key player in the second half. Malin Jeanson, key player today, only 1 goal after having 17 in the tournament, but she did a lot of little things in this game.
Well, she defensively took out Schmidt for the other side, so she has a lot of unsung praise out there.
Aida Kulasic, Tabby Hardison, Lena Peterson. Gosha Gunka, big smile for her. You see Gabrielle Stillwell there, number 6. She had the game-winning goal. It's a memory she'll cherish. Marzina Karkut. Francie Mooring. Carolina Marganari. Ivona Brodzinska.
Chicago, I don't think enough can be said that they really did a nice job to reinvent themselves this year and come out with a lot more weapons and a different kind of style.
And the medals are nice. You can keep that with you, but there's nothing like hoisting the trophy. And Jolanta Kunikite, the captain, will get to do it first.
And fittingly she should. She really captained this team to a great victory today, and they did a wonderful job.
She's done this many times before, and for the 3rd time in 4 years, never gets old. All right, well, so the final score once again in the Women's Division Championship of the 2011 Berta Sport USA Team Handball Club National Championships. Chicago Inter 20, New York City Team Handball Club 19 for Tia Bowie. I'm Ken Tomash. We thank you so much for joining us for this exciting women's final. We'll be back in about 20 minutes for the men's final between, guess who?